Africans of Reddit, what cultural differences separate your country from the rest of Africa? Answering this question is quite difficult because Africans, speaking as a Ugandan, don't usually have cultural practices that unify a country because there are many tribes that exist within a country that all have different practices. As a Ugandan, I identify as a Muganda from the central region of the country. In my region we have a king who is the head of the different clans. Different clans also have their own clan leaders. What would separate my region from other regions is the language we speak. It's called Luganda. We also have matuka as our staple food, and our kingdom is one of the last ones standing as many were disintegrated by British colonial rule. As a Ugandan, what is close to a cultural practice is that we greet people when we meet them before doing business with them. If I go to the shop to purchase items, I will first greet the shop attendant. If I report to work in the morning, it's kind of mandatory to greet my workmates as soon as I get in. This, however, is common practice in most African countries. What you have asked is a question I can take the whole day answering, because then I will have to get into regions, tribes, clans, chiefdoms and kingdoms. I have answered the easiest way I can. Greater than as a Ugandan, what is close to a cultural practice is that we greet people when we meet them before doing business with them. If I go to the shop to purchase items, I will first greet the shop attendant. If I report to work in the morning, it's kind of mandatory to greet my workmates as soon as I get in. This, however, is common practice in most African countries. South African here. Do people from outside of Africa not do this? Like, do they just walk up to the shop attendant and start asking them for something without even greeting? That seems incredibly rude to me. NYC here. Not always. Many times I'll go into the deli or supermarket and just pay for my stuff without saying a word. We are the continent's most recent real democracy. Judges stood up to the president and said the sham of an election wasn't good enough. People were inspired and queued to vote in the election rerun, removing the old government. So proud of my country. This is Malawi. For anyone wondering, hopefully you guys can join Botswana in the top tier of Africa. Well, we don't consider ourselves Africans, and half the population keep debating if we are Arab or not. Egypt. Yes. I don't know if this counts, but we are the music capital of Africa. Nigeria. Yep. 12 different official languages and nicknamed the Rainbow Nation due to the variety of races. As an additional bonus, the Rainbow Nation is one of the most racist of all African countries. Your skin is a half shade lighter than mine, I must kill your whole village. Also rugby, we're the reigning world champs. Massacres. Tanzanian here. Well, I've noticed that Tanzanians tend to be very quick to get personal with each other and casual. Flirting is basically normal and an easygoing thing. After living in a few other countries, I just found that Tanzanians by nature have a more casual attitude to everything, with random strangers easily treating you as their own child or relative within minutes of meeting, and it being normal to flirt with random shopkeepers, attendants and conductors. It further helps that everyone speaks the same language. Culture and religion is not very strict and doesn't separate people too much. I grew up outside of Tanzania and moved back for a while as a teenager, and it blew me away at first how easygoing everything was. Living away from home now makes me miss how I could strike up fun and insightful conversations everywhere I go, and always joke around and flirt with people I didn't even know. Genuinely helped a lot in getting over my social anxiety. From South Africa, we have a beach with penguins. My wife is not allowed to eat on the same table as my father. Your coffin starts its trip from your house, and your nephews and kids have to do the heavy lifting and organizing. In-laws will block entrance with blanket until you pay toll for coffin to leave homestead. Why is your wife not allowed to sit at the same table as your father? My father already has a wife, and my wife is the youngest wife in family, therefore must eat on the floor somewhere else. On top of that, during family functions she has to run around and do the hard work. That last sentence is true in many cultures. Zimbabwe. But we are not strict with all these traditions. We don't think of ourselves as Africans. And any reference to African people we mean black African from the south. Egypt, Algeria, Morocco. North Africa, right? Bingo. Morocco. Not gonna lie, as a Moroccan this thing annoys the most about my country. We're Africans. I really don't get why people want to deny that. Surprisingly, this extends beyond just your country. In high school, my best friend growing up was Moroccan, but we lived in New York. When he took standardized exams and applied to colleges, there's always a question about race, ethnicity. He was a dual citizen of Morocco and the US, with a parent from each country, so he wanted to take the African American box. His college counselor warned him against it since he wasn't very dark, and didn't want him to get in trouble for lying. After some research, it turns out that the college board wants people ethnically North African Arab to tick the white box. I thought it was pretty weird that someone literally from Africa and America couldn't identify as African American. I guess that's neo-colonialism at its finest. As a mixed-race person, I'll say there are a lot of things wrong with the generalized ethnic questions common in the USA. Most modern questionnaires require me to check 2 or more races, which tells you nothing about my ethnic makeup or ancestry. They either need to become much less generalized or allow people to short response. Lumping all descent into which continent are your ancestors primarily from, are you Hispanic, is so stupid. The continents are all huge and each have very rich histories with many different ethnic groups. Something institutionalized racist, monsieur. I get it, though, and I'm really starting to understand what that really means. Till, like 4 countries in Africa use Reddit, and South Africa dwarfs the other 3. Feel our power. BRAAAIII. Lol. We only have one culture. WORS! Exclamation mark. I'm from 2 African countries. The first is that we have the most amazing ability to turn literally anything into a joke, no matter how painful. The second is how strong and stubborn we are as a people. Applies to both countries. Definitely South Africa. Within minutes of something happening, people have already made jokes and memes. And also your username. We've got folks of several different ethnicity living together with a Hindu majority. Only country in Africa, I believe. Mauritius. RIP dodo birds. Not having been colonized. Hosting the political capital of Africa. Having one of the oldest forms of Christianity and Judaism. Having some of the continent's most beautiful women and eating a flat pancake with tons of different stews as our national dish. Oh, we also are one of the few countries, if I am not mistaken, with an indigenous alphabet that is used in the country's primary language. Ethiopia, former Abyssinia, the last standing African kingdom. I couldn't have said it better myself. It's really hard to find differences between my country Algeria and both our neighbors Morocco and Tunisia. Our cultures collide in many aspects. Europeans even refer to us as North Africans or Maghrebans. Zimbabwean here. That is a difficult question because the colonizers bunch up different kingdoms irrespective of their political boundaries. Zimbabwe and South Africa are legally separated by the Limpopo River. However, the Venda Kingdom occupied that region, and we now have a situation where our families suddenly found themselves separated by the political boundaries which they never knew existed. The same holds true for Botswana and Zimbabwe, where the Botswana and Kalanga-speaking people exist on both sides of the border. Same thing with Zimbabwe and Zambia, where the Tonga exist on either side. Again, the same phenomena exists between Mozambique and Zimbabwe, where the Ndau Kingdom doesn't respect the imaginary lines put in place by the Berlin Conference. The same holds true for all Southern and East African countries I know of. Hence it becomes hard to distinguish along cultural differences. because our nation-states are a melting pot of varied cultures. Yeah, I really wish that the Europeans never would have messed with America or Africa. It would have been so cool to see the Native American empires and also the African kingdoms at their full power. Because, like during the Middle Ages, wasn't Mali or Ghana? I can't remember which, but I think it was Mali the richest country on earth? I don't know. I just think it would be cool to see the actual empires and not just a bunch of tribes and kingdoms divided up by greedy Europeans. Mansa Musa is debatably the richest man to ever lived, but certainly the richest in the Middle Ages. This might be white Western brainwashing, but Africa has suffered hardships well before the Europeans got there. But I agree. It's a crying shame. This post needs a serious tag. Honestly, the amount of serious responses anyway kind of makes it moot. Somalian through my mom here. We have nicknames for everyone. One of my favorite one is the nickname we have for presidents. Big forehead, big head, that is literally what we call them. Instead of president or prime minister. My mom doesn't see the funny side to it, but I do. We are the Pearl of Africa, Uganda. Yes, we are boss. The beautiful legs of Afrikaans men. I suddenly feel better about my legs. Most of my countrymen are white. Tunisia, Morocco. We're the US of Africa. Loud and obnoxious. Massive wealth inequality between the very rich and poor. Very individualist. Rich country that has nothing to show for it. Very nationalistic. Have a strong mistrust of the government. Ambition focuses on wealth accumulation instead of the pursuit of happiness. Nigeria. Why doesn't anyone actually specify which country they're talking about in replies? Laughing face. Op accidentally made this thread to describe your African nation with us getting the chance to guess what it is. Cool. No? Well, we have a mountain that is flat, 11 languages, our Bri culture is unique, we are proud of our heritage. South Africa? Yep. More civilized than America currently. Not an incredibly high hurdle to clear. Bit of a low bar, isn't it? Look at me. I'm the democracy now. We had pharaohs, ancient temples, pyramids, and used hieroglyphs. No, it's not Egypt, underscore. Hello Sudan, EBNL Nile. We used English alphabet to speak Arabic. Going to plug our global talk here. We somehow all live in Finsbury Park. Pirates. Somalia. Ding ding ding. Exclamation mark. I understand there is little to no effective government there. Is that true? How do you do things like get clean water for the community? Police forces? Schools? I don't lie, then there lol, my heritage is Somali so IDK skeptical smiley face. South African here. We were the first country to have 7 colors on our flag. Also, we have like 11 official languages. I think people need to realize that other than poverty, no African county is homogeneous to another. Very little similarities in any other aspects. I believe that was the point of this post, to show that the countries are wildly different. The part about the rest of Africa showed me that the poster thinks there is a oneness of mind and lifestyle in Africa. As a Kenyan, we run, but TBH, that's just one tribe. We have 42 of them, monsieur, same as most African countries with 30+ tribes. Since most countries are less than 60 years old, we don't tend to have a real national identity. Most Africans identify first as their tribes and then as their country. However, outside Africa we become more patriotic, I guess. Since we need an identity, I guess. We were the 5th country in the world to legalize gay marriage. Rainbow nation in multiple ways. I'm not from Africa, but I have a question. Who makes the best biltong? South Africa, OFC. In South Africa, this question could start a brawl. Laughing face. As a Kenyan, I have to say Namibia. As a Namibian, I will also say Namibian. We clap our hands as a sign of gratitude and respect. You do this when someone is passing you something, e.g. a plate of food, or any object really. Hardly any COVID. Madagascar. The answer has to be Madagascar. Been playing too much Plague Inc., huh? Way too much. Tanzania not closing down for COVID. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.